Alright, who's ready to be a Redditor? So we've got a new heavy edit Splatling kit, and this one is going to have Splat Bomb and Crab Tank. Basically any weapon in the game that you give Splat Bomb and Crab Tank to. Like, there are probably a few that don't like it. There are a few, but there's not a lot of them. That is a killer kit in most cases. I think it is significantly muted by being on a Splatling, but definitely still very solid. And so let's go into, details about each one, and then we'll talk about what they all combine to. So first of all, Splat Bomb is very strong, one of the best sub-weapons in the game in general. It's lethal, takes up a decent amount of space, has a pretty fast time before it explodes, so you have to react to it pretty fast. You can throw it pretty long distances, which compensates for the range of a lot of shorter ranged weapons, but you can also roll it, and rolling it means that it hits the ground sooner, and since hitting the ground is its fuse time starter, it explodes even quicker that way, and you can still get pretty decent distance on this. Like, that is well outside the range of even this main weapon, and that has a really fast time to splat. So, super powerful, aggressive tool, but it can also be used defensively, and so this is the part where I think a lot of people are like, well, it's a backline weapon. What's it going to do using a Splat Bomb? Well, okay, first of all, the heavy edit is not that long range. In fact, it is actually outranged by a Splat Bomb, and I can show that here. But while I'm showing that, I would also like to remind everybody of the existence of the Splat Charger and how it works in these games. It worked in Splatoon 2. Okay, we need to go a little bit further back, and then we're out of range. Okay, so I cannot hit anything from here, even with fall off. I was outside of max range a long time ago, and now here is Splat Bomb. And that's just standing still. If I jump throw the Splat Bomb, it goes into the dummy. And if I squid roll Splat Bomb, it goes so far it's almost doing indirect damage. So, Splat Bomb, still a buff to the weapon range here. But going back to what we were talking about before, Splat Charger in Splatoon 2, it was something you rushed down a lot as a frontline weapon because it had Stingray. And that sucks. You don't want to deal with Stingray. You'd rather just get rid of the player who has it and then be able to go on with your life. So, Chargers got rushed down at basically every opportunity a frontline weapon thought they had. And what the Chargers would do in those situations is this. Put a Splat Bomb at their feet so that if someone is trying to rush at them, they go, oh wait, I've got to back up. They wait for the Splat Bomb, and then by the time they start swimming forward again, Charger is back here, and they have charge ready to go. That play is only better on this weapon than it was on the Charger, because this thing's going to put the bomb down, and then it's going to have multi-kill potential coming around this corner. It's really dangerous to push a Splatling when they've got charge, and the Splat Bomb at your feet play is just a I have guaranteed charge play. And so the big thing that is the problem with the Splat Bomb in this game, something that you would encounter on something like the Dually Squelchers, is that the Splat Bomb takes up a lot of your ink tank. So if I throw this out here and then start trying to jump tech around, I'm already out of ink. That's one of the reasons that this particular weapon doesn't actually like that aspect of its kit, and one of the reasons you tend to see the other version of it a little bit more, actually. But the heavy Splatling does not really have that problem. Take a look at my ink tank when I get this full charge ready. That's it, right there. I have drawn all of the charge that I need to fire all of my shots. See all of that damage? That was that little of my ink tank. And this is the full, like, 3-second or whatever charge time. Like, all of that stuff. And then I pull it a second time. And I've only just lost enough ink that I can't use the sub-weapon. Just a tiny little dip into the ink, and I can throw a curling bomb again. This weapon's just, like, pretty ink efficient with that charge. You don't draw a lot of ink to be able to fire back at someone. So you absolutely can, on a full tank, drop that Splat Bomb, get enough charge to fire back at someone, and have a good chance of actually winning that fight. So I think Splat Bomb is still great on this weapon. Obviously, sub-weapons on Splatlings are just going to be used a little bit less, which is a reason that, like, on the Ballpoint Nouveau kit that was so disgusting in Splatoon 2, beacons were actually really good, because it was something that you placed outside of combat, and then during combat, you could just rely on the main weapon. But as far as a sub-weapon that you're going to use aggressively goes, this is perfectly fine to be on the heavy edit Splatling. Nobody is going to complain about having that unless there's just, like, something that they really wanted in their heart of hearts for the kit to get and it didn't get it. Now, Crab Tank. On some weapons, you know, you look at Crab Tank and you're like, well, this is what this weapon already does. Like, if this were on a Hydra, if the Crab Tank were on a Hydra, I'd be like, okay, what's the difference? We've already got a Splatling, and the Crab Tank is basically a Splatling with just, like, an Explo attachment. So, like, you're kind of just doing the same thing. Like, what is even the difference? I don't agree that that is the way that things are with the heavy edit Splatling. And it's a simple matter of range, like we talked about with the bomb before. So remember, for being out of range to hit any shots, we go like here. But let's pop a Crab Tank and just see what extra this does for us. So obviously from here we can hit this. We can hit very far back. We can still hit it from way back here. It's something like back here before we're out of range. You can see the difference. That's substantial. And that lasts for a pretty long time, too. It just gives you options to fight weapons that you normally cannot fight. And that's never going to be a bad thing for this weapon either. And honestly, I think it fits a lot better than when you've got it on something like a Splash, because what a Splash has to do to accommodate getting Crab Tanks is it has to change its playstyle completely. It has to be like, okay, well, do I want to go in? Do I want to, like, take a fight right now? Or do I want to play around my special? You kind of have to play like a support, even though you're playing this, like, aggressive, break-the-whole-game-open special. And you're constantly going back and forth between where your main weapon wants to play and where your special weapon wants to play, depending on the situation. And you can absolutely do that, and it's a very mobile weapon, and it's really good for that. But the heavy edit Splatling, there's really something to be said for the fact that basically anywhere that weapon wants to be is already not a bad spot to put a Crab Tank. Obviously, there might be some better spots for the Crab Tank because you can use the extra range, and so now you can take advantage of some positions you normally couldn't. But you can just back up like a few steps. Like, sure, back here is, you know, a lot further forward than back here, but you see how little time this took? If I'm a Splash and I want to get back into a range where I can use the special weapon after I can use my main weapon, I have to go like this. I have to do something like that. That is such a substantial amount of time in a competitive game of Splatoon. Not to mention the fact that on an actual map, you're going to be dealing with elevation change. You're going to be dealing with, like, choke points and the map being a maze, and you potentially having to do some very circuitous things to get to where you want to be to use that Crab Tank. But the heavy edit Splatling is just like, I'll just take a few steps back and we're good. And now we're in the right place to be using this. And it'll also set you up to be where you want to move next. I could see that being pretty powerful. I could see that having a lot of use cases, and it's going to get a lot of them, because the heavy edit Splatling paints a lot. We've known about this because we've been using it to paint for cooler. And therein lies the one major flaw I think that there is in this kit, which isn't really a flaw. It's that there's another kit that we're more likely to use right now because it has cooler, the most important special in the entire game. And it also is difficult to run with alternate cooler weapons. Because right now what people really want to be doing is using the pencil and using the vanilla heavy edit Splatling as like backline painters to get cooler, because it's a really safe weapon to get the cooler on. It's going to paint really reliably and really quickly, and you're not risking that player running forward and getting splatted like you are with an NZAP or a Nouveau that wouldn't be getting as many of them anyway. That is, the Nouveau wouldn't be getting as many of them. The Zap gets plenty. But you lose the Zap sometimes. Sometimes it just gets Zuka'd because of the range that it's going to normally play at. A little bit less likely, a little bit more defensive on the Heavy Edit or the Snipe Rider or something like that. So those are really common options, and if you're trying to run this new Heavy Edit, you kind of don't want to run it with another Heavy Edit, you don't want to run it with another Snipe Rider, so it's like Zap. That's probably your option right now. Maybe in some unique cases, try Nouveau. So we're going to be running around Zap instead of Snipe Rider, and then what do we build with that? We've already got a Crab, so what else do we put in? There are some alternatives for sure. There are some ways to build around that comp. Just, it's unorthodox. It's something that you're going out of your way to do. I think the most similar weapon you can compare this to, actually, is the red pencil. It's another weapon that's red, whoa, that is an excellent weapon by its own merits, and is simultaneously seeing absolutely no use because its counterpart over here has Tacticooler, paints for it very quickly, and is also a very strong weapon in its own right. There's nothing wrong with this weapon. It's just, you pick this weapon instead. And I feel like that's the way it's probably going to be with this Heavy Edit. We're probably going to just see the cooler until cooler meta is gone, and when that happens, then it becomes very interesting, and we have to think things about it, know things about it. And we're going to see a ton of it, early on. We're going to see a lot of people trying it out because it's a strong kit, and it's worth having a Crab in a lot of places. And there are probably going to be some places where it slots in. There are probably going to be some niches for it. I like it. It's a cool kit. It's something that gives you an alternate play style. Everything that you want in another kit. Just at the top level of play right now, I don't think it sees a lot of use. I think that this is more of a, let's slot this into a mid-level or low-level team comp because we need X, Y, and Z thing, and this has those things, even though that might not be what we're trying to optimize for at the top level. And again, totally fine to have that. It's great that we have that. I like that we have these options. It allows for creative opportunities to express yourself through your strategy in the game. And I really like this kit. And I don't want my saying that I don't think we're going to see it at top level to be discouraging to anyone who wants to use it. I think it's really cool. I think it's really fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing a billion of them in our open matches when the new patch drops.